Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's seminar. My name is Vaishnavi Bhaskaran. Let's begin the session with a brief introduction about our organization, Oceanic. Oceanic is an agri-biotech startup founded by Dr. Shamni, based in Chennai and incubated in Birak's Bionest Golden Jubilee Biotech Park for Women. Our innovative products are aimed at solving real-life problems in the agri-business and improving its quality and sustainability. We are a team of creative and enthusiastic early professionals with a high model to bring great changes and impact to our agricultural land. Today, we are presenting Coastal and Marine Biodiversity Conservation for Sustainable Livelihood, presented by Dr.V.S. Chandrasekaran. To give a brief introduction about our honorable speaker, he has 121 publications to its credit and worked with 19 research projects. A marine biologist having expertise in coastal and brackish water, aquaculture, biodiversity and conservation, marine fisheries and disaster management, etc. Aggregated with numerous scientific publications and also received recipient of prestigious awards. Chidambaram Memorial Annual Award 2008, ICAR Award for Outstanding Interdisciplinary Team Research in Agriculture and Allied Science. A long-standing member of various historical and international scientific and professional fishery society. So, just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box in your control panel. Please try to ask questions as early as possible so that we will also have the time for your questions at the end. The feedback link will be provided during the session. Kindly fill it and send it to receive your certificate. Now, with no further delay, I would request Dr. K.S. Chandrasekaran to take over the session.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. Thank you, Vaishnavi. Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure and honor to make a presentation in this webinar. So I'm basically a marine biologist, and it's my passion to deliver lectures related to marine science, fisheries, aquaculture, and all. So I'd like to thank Shamini and the team for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge and experience with you all. So this biodiversity, marine biodiversity conservation and climate change mitigation, all these are the burning issues nowadays because our concern for our living environment is getting increased more and more because of the increased human activities, interference of the human activities into the nature. So it's now time that we have to have a sort of awareness, and if possible, we have to start the action to combat the problems related to the environmental deterioration, including the biodiversity, which is very essential for our existence. So what is, I think many of you may be knowing much about the oceans, seas and all. We have studied in our schools, and we have come across many news about oceans and all every day in the television and newspapers and all. But just to review quickly, most part, 3/4 of the world, the globe is covered with the seas and oceans. Exactly, it's about 71% of the earth which is being covered by the oceans and seas. And the average depth is 3.8 kilometers. So it's average depth. It can vary from a few feet to even kilometers. The deepest sea in the ocean, deepest place in the ocean is known as the Mariana Trench, which is near Philippines. and it goes up to 11 kilometers into the sea. Can you imagine 11 kilometers into the sea? I'll show you some more slides in which you can see what is the situation over there if you go into the sea. And you may be surprised to know, when compared to the terrestrial environment where we live, the living organisms in the oceans, they are many times more. They are called as biomes, that is major regional and ecological units in which these organisms are inhabited, and the genetic diversity of these organisms, both plants and animals, they are also greater in the seas, and it is just incomparable to the terrestrial animals and plants. And what is the importance of these oceans? Most of our trade, they are being taking place in the oceans through the ships. What we get, the transportation by air, it is limited, and most of the trade and transportation and passengers traveling and all, it's in the oceans. And the most important aspect is the oceans, they act as the stabilizers for the climate of the whole of the earth. Otherwise, see, this tropical area, they are the hotter regions, and the polar regions, they are the coolest places. And if naturally, if there is no ocean and if it is totally a land area, you cannot imagine the temperature that goes up in the tropical areas and the chillness in the polar areas because of the water circulation in the oceans through currents. That is called as the surface water current, which is hot or warmer current, and the deep sea currents, which are chill currents, cooler currents. Because of that circulation, the global temperature, weather is being stabilized. Otherwise, it's very difficult for the human beings and the many other organisms to live. Okay, how many species are there in the marine environment? So there have been a lot of studies done in the past century, and there are many reports and contradictory reports. So as per the global biodiversity assessment by United Nations Environment Program, there are about 178,000 marine species belonging to 34 phyla. So marine species means it includes both and animals. That is one report. And another study which was done coordinatedly by 2,700 scientists all over the world from 80 countries, and going into the sea for about 540 times, the expedition in ships specifically for research purpose. And this whole study was for the period of about 10 years. And out of that, they concluded that it's 250,000 species are there. And it's just like the tip of the iceberg. There could be at least 9 million or more species in the oceans. And one study which was done in 2011, they have, that is for the whole of the globe, including the terrestrial environment, where it's about 8.7 million species they have made the count, and out of which 2.2 million in the oceans. Again, they have also predicted, or they have also projected that 91% of all the marine species are yet to be discovered. See, it's only about 5 to 10% that we have explored our oceans and seas. And how much the ocean surface, they are being occupied by different environments. Most of the, almost half of the globe, it is being covered by deep sea. I said 71% of the globe is covered by seas and oceans, and out of which 55% of the total globe, or major part of the seas and oceans, they are in the the deep sea. And whatever you are left with the edges between the terrestrial environment and the sea, they are the continental shelf and the continental slope. So here you can see the totally it's 71% of the sea and all water areas, and this 29% is the terrestrial environment. And here you can see the ocean floor diagram. Okay, so in which you can see whatever we see in the terrestrial environment, there is a different world in the seas. You can see many hills, mountains, and valleys, and trenches. So Mariana Trench is somewhere here near Philippines. Okay, so this is the part of the sea which are being connected to the land, which is the most important one from biodiversity point of view, or from the point of view of biological organisms. So, it's the area, sea area, which is nearer to the land. It is called as a neritic zone or neritic system, and the sea which is far away from the shore, it is called the oceanic region or oceanic system. So these zones, different zones, they are having exclusively different types of organisms. Okay, they have unique features in their physical and chemical characters, and because of that, the organisms which can adapt to that type of environment, only they can live over there. And the most important area is the coastal area, which is about 20 to 30 times more productive than the open ocean. Productive means the content of the nutrients in the water, which is the base of the fish production or any growth and life of the any organism. Okay, and there you can find diverse type of environments like rocky environment, muddy environment, sandy beaches, and combination of all these things. So each the organisms which are living in the rocky shores, they are different. They have their own adaptations, both morphological and physiological adaptations. And the organisms which are living in the sandy shore areas or muddy areas, they have different types of characters. So what I mean to say is, so the organisms, they have evolved in the course of millions of years, and they have developed according to their life into for the existence into this world as per their habitat, the living space. And the bottom area, they are see, this is the shallow area which is called as the continental shelf, and then there is a slope in the sea, and then it goes deep into the sea. So it may be flat, or it may go still further deep. And here you can see the supra-tidal zone. Supra-tidal zone means there is a tidal zone, intertidal zone. Means you might have heard about the high tide and the low tide in the oceans. It's because of the gravitational pull of the sun and moon. The water, it's like what I can say, like a balloon filled with water. If you just press it at one side, it will bulge on the other side. So like that, due to the gravitational pull of the moon and sun, the water is being getting bulged in during some time, and it's going down during some time. So that is called as that is related to the lunar periodicity, that is full moon and new moon. So what I mean to say is, sometimes the bulging of the water takes place in the oceans at one place, and at the other place the water goes in. This is a regular feature. This should not be confused with the tsunami. Tsunami happens once in a while. It is because of the earthquake or the tectonic movements which are taking place below the surface of the sea. And because of that, the water volume, the huge water volume that is being pulled inside, and that comes out, rippling out, making the wave that makes the huge waves and destruction, everything. But this tidal wave, it takes place twice in a year, in a day, high tide and low tide. So what I mean to say is, when the water, it is not static. Water goes up and down in the seas, and it can be felt in the seashores. And this also determines the zonation of the organisms, both animals and plants in the seashore area. And if you see the distribution of the organisms, again, light is an important factor. So here you can see the photic zone and then aphotic zone. I think up to 200 meters, it is well lighted. Okay, after that, slowly the light goes off. As per the Vibgyor, it goes one by one, and it becomes totally dark in the inside the sea. Here you can see the Neritic province and Oceanic province. And there are many types of classifications like sublittoral, eulittoral, benthic, abyssal benthic, hadal benthic. So don't bother about all these terms. So what I mean to say, the light goes down and it becomes totally dark. And you can imagine how the animals, they can live in the totally dark condition. And again, these are all the oceanographic classifications of the ocean floor and slope and shelf regions. And it's again the different types of yellow, red, ultraviolet, green, blue. So blue is the color which goes to the deepest area of the this thing, sea. So I just out of interest, I just wanted to show these fishes. The normal fishes, are they looking like normal fishes? No, they are very different. They are like something like horror movie characters. Okay, but actually Hollywood movies, they make characters from the animals like this, from the deep sea, and many even cockroach, they made the like many other films they have made. Okay, so here you can see the eyes are very big, too big. Okay, the teeth, they are very big, and they look very ferocious. And this fish is having a tentacle-like structure, and on the tip of that there is a light-like structures. They have bioluminescence. Since it's very dark in the deep oceans, they have natural light, bioluminescence in their body, and their skeleton is very not strong. It is very weak, because the hydrostatic pressure in the sea, as you go inside, it is very high. In that pressure, the normal bones will get broken. So that's why they have the adaptation of having a very flexible bones with them. And here you can see some, they have a box-like exoskeleton, so that they protect, that gives extra protection. And the eyes are very big, so that it is easy for them to see for both defense and offense. And these fishes, you can see, they have light all over their body, all these around the eyes and all these. Okay, all bioluminescent organs which are there, that gives that is being used for their offense and defense. Okay, so when you see the organisms, both plants and animals, right from the surface or the shore up to the deep waters, there are so many different types of organisms. They are even bacteria, plankton, the microscopic organisms, and the small fishes, okay, and corals and crustaceans, bigger fishes, squids, and still larger fishes, and the largest organisms, the marine mammals, whales, and even the sea birds, and in the Arctic area, even the Arctic fox and bear and all, they are depending on the marine environment. So there is a complex interrelationship between all these organisms. The plankton, the microorganisms, plankton, they produce by absorbing the carbon dioxide from the environment, and they produce the, in the presence of light, through photosynthesis, they produce the food. That is the base of the food chain in the ocean. Okay, and then this is being, the energy is being transferred from this phytoplankton, that is floating micro plants in the oceans. Even in freshwater also they are there. And zooplankton, they feed upon them. And on the zooplankton, the small fishes feed. And the small fishes, they are being eaten by the bigger fishes. So it is like chain, or we can say food web. So it is there in the terrestrial environment also. See, the plants, they are the plants which are producing the paddy or wheat or whatever it is. They are the primary producers. They actually produce the food. We cannot make food. Our body cannot make food. Neither the animals cannot make food. Only the plants can make food through photosynthesis, and that is being fed by the different layers of the animal kingdom. Okay, so we are consumers, tertiary consumers. We enjoy what the plant they are producing. In the similar way, in the sea also, you can see the carbon dioxide is absorbed, and phytoplankton, they produce the food, and that is being grazed upon by the zooplankton, and a part of the carbon that goes inside also. And there also for deep water plankton, they are also there, and the smaller fishes, bigger fishes, similar cycle is there in the deep ocean also. Otherwise, the deep sea fishes, they cannot come to the surface for feeding and go back. They have the system, natural system of getting the feed over there, but the food availability is very scarce in the deep waters than in the upper surface water. The productivity is very high in the surface water than in the deep water. Okay, and see again the mesopelagic, epipelagic, all these, they are the classifications. And it's actually this carbon cycle that's playing important role in the food production and the energy among the fishes. And coming to the very theme of our today's topic of how this biodiversity, they are being affected in the marine environment, and what are the efforts that are being made by different governments to protect these environments. So here you can see the land and freshwater where we live. Okay, it occupies about 29% of the Earth's surface. Okay, and how much of that our terrestrial environment, they are being protected? About 5%. Okay, this is only just comparison. Whereas in the case of oceans and seas, they occupy 71% of the globe. Okay, but you see the proportion, 0.25% of them are only protected. We are not bothered about the oceans and seas. It's natural. We cannot go into the sea and find out what is happening, whether they are good or not. That is not our job. It is not possible. It is very expensive. Okay, so whatever possible we are doing. So that is happening at where? Continental shelf. That is the area where the terrestrial environment at the sea, they meet. And these are all the main main areas where the economic activities and whatever the human activities, they are happening in the globe. Okay, in the waterfronts. So the continental shelves, they occupy just only 5.4% of the global Earth's surface, and there is relatively a good protection. The maximum protection next to terrestrial land, it is in the continental shelf. And continental slope, it's okay. It's 10% and it is less than 1%. And deep sea, we are not at all bothered, which is about slightly more than 50% of the surface of the globe. It's almost zero. We are not bothered about the health of the deep sea oceans, right? And again, 0.25% of the world oceans, they are being conserved and protected areas. What is meant by protection of the environment? There are they are being conserved mainly from the human activities. Okay, like how we are protecting the forest. Protected forests are restricted forest means we want the human beings, we are not permitted to go inside for hunting or to take the wood or anything like that. So like that, there are certain areas in the oceans also which are very sensitive ecologically and they have been protected. Okay, so this I have already told. And the existing marine protected areas, already they have earmarked some areas, but it is not possible to do adequate supervision and management of these areas. So comparatively in Western countries, they are taking much care and they allocate much money. And in our country and many of the developing countries, our budget allocation is relatively less. But India is far more better than many other countries, African countries and all. And here you can see the marine protected areas in India. They are the havens of the biodiversity. There you can find a rich varieties of number of species of animals and plants. They are very much. For example, Park Bay and Gulf of Mannar. This is a protected area. They are biospheres, national parks, sanctuary. There are many classifications. If you go to the website of Ministry of Environment and Forest of Government of India, there you can find the full list. And this MPS, they are for this area. What the numbers they are given? It's for marine and coastal area. And Koriga, Mangroves near Kakinada, and Orissa, Chilika Lake, and this thing, Sundarbans in West Bengal, and Gulf of Kutch. These are all very rich in the marine animals and plant species. Diversity is rich. Again, Andaman, there are some species which are exclusively available in Andaman and Nicobar. They are not there in the mainland coastal areas. So what I mean to say is, our country is blessed with good biological organisms or the biodiversity, and it is our bound duty that we have to conserve all these organisms. And okay, marine ecosystem, this again global view. Marine ecosystems, they comprise 99% of the biosphere. I am not telling the physical earth, it's biosphere. Biosphere means the space in which the living organisms, they are there. So it's a sort of calculation. Okay, so most of the biosphere is the marine environment. Okay, only 0.2% that is with the terrestrial and the freshwater ecosystem. You can imagine so how important these marine environment they are. And biodiversity of the continental slopes, deep sea, which comprise about 65% of the Earth's surface, they have not been conserved properly under Protected Areas Act. And okay, how much the different marine environment or ecosystems that have that we lost or that got degraded. Here you see coral reefs, they are very important. Okay, 5 to 10% of the coral reefs we have lost. This is a global, scenario. And mangroves, they are very, very important. They act as a shield to protect the villages, human beings at the time of cyclones and even tsunami, like that. And they act as the nursery grounds for the baby fishes and organisms. So once these nurseries, if they are destroyed, the nursery area, mangroves, the nursery areas, they are the fishes that comes there do breeding and leave their babies over there to grow. And these babies, after their growth, they go back to the sea. So once these nursery grounds are destroyed, you will lose all the fish production, and the fish production in the adjacent areas that goes down. Okay, new stone, they are the big biomass of floating organisms that are very, very important, which are being due to the oil pollution, oil slicks. See, the oil pollution, the oil pollute in the, oil float on the sea when they are leaked out from the oil wells by accident or by ships and all. So that makes a thin film that makes the organisms suffocate. Oxygen which is being absorbed from the atmosphere, that is being stopped, and they suffocate and they die. Okay, and here you see the coastal and ocean water photic zone. I told already, the photic zone is the most productive area, the surface area, and 30% of loss in productivity due to the toxic chemicals and UV increase. See, these toxic chemicals that are being produced mostly by our human activities, and the UV increase also, it is because of the ozone depletion. Again, ozone depletion, it is due to the global warming, and global warming is due to the greenhouse gases release. Again, related comes down to our human activities only. So continental shelf, 80% of the damage, it's happening to fishing. So one type of, there are many types of fishing methods and fishing crafts and gears, what we say, that is boats and nets. Okay, there are passive type of fishing, active type of fishing, and selective type of fishing, like that. So some fishing methods, earlier there was no problem, we had enough fish and we can sweep the sea and take out the fish and eat or whatever we do. But nowadays the population also, the fish population also getting dwindled, and because of that, we human beings, we started increasing our fishing effort. Day by day we are increasing, and we are almost taken out in some areas the fishes. Okay, so that itself is not a responsible fishing activity. Moreover, it damages the habitat where the fishes are living, like continental shelf region, it's 88% that has been damaged. And polar regions, they are relatively safe. Arctic and Antarctic areas, they are relatively safe, but due to global warming, the decrease in the ice, it's happening, and the ecosystem is also getting disturbed, and the organisms which are living over there, they are suffering. And seagrass, see, there are three or four important sensitive ecosystems in the coastal areas: mangroves, coral reefs, seagrasses, and seaweeds. Okay, see, these seagrasses, they are like a forest in the terrestrial environment. They are the forest in the ocean. They play a very important role in the ecosystem health. Okay, and here you can see 8% of the seagrass, they have been lost. Here I have given the actual square kilometer areas where they have gone out, and the salt marshes, much is not known about these salt marshes, which are also important. So I think this gives you some idea how much we lost our natural sources in the coastal and marine environment. Particularly if we see the Indian Ocean. Okay, the Indian Ocean, it extends over 30% of the global ocean area, and it is rimmed by 36 littoral and 11 hinterland nations. Littoral means actual the countries which are bordering the water area, the sea, and hinterland means the interior countries, but they are also depending upon the sea in one or other way. Okay, and about 30% of the world population, they are depending on this, on the Indian Ocean alone. And the Indian Ocean is blessed with 30% of the coral reefs, 40,000 square kilometers of mangroves, and some of the largest estuaries in the world, they are there in the Indian Ocean. Estuary means the water area which is connecting the river to the sea. These estuaries are very dynamic, like many other coastal ecosystems. The estuaries, they are also important from the biological point of view. And large marine ecosystems, they are protected areas. Okay, why all these are happening? How our biodiversity is getting depleted? Okay, fishing is one of the important activity. Even though it's an economic activity, that's important. there is no sustainable fishing going on in some parts of the country, particularly the industrialized areas. They operate very big industrialized ships like that. So they industry vessels we call, they go into the sea and they study the migration of the fish well in advance. They have detectors, and when the fish spool comes, before that they deploy the net into the sea, and once the fish is inside, they close both the edges, and tons and tons of fishes with one dip, it takes out the net one by one. At a time it cannot be taken out, and they are being processed in the the ship itself, okay, and canned or cured or iced, whatever it is, frozen. Then they are being exported from the industrial vessels themselves. They don't even reach the land. So this type of huge exploitation of the fishery resource is going on, and the impact is very much there on the natural environment in the oceans. So the most intensely used and impacted marine areas are the continental shelf. So what I told in the deep ocean, inside, far away into the sea, but most of the fishing activities in the continental shelf area, that is a near shore area, maybe about 50 meters or 200 meters, even within that neritic zone, I said. No? So there the fishing activities are there going on. So that also very much disturbs the environment. At the interest of the land, water edges, estuaries, lagoons, mangroves, fishing banks. So these areas are exposed for intensive fishing, and that disturbs the marine coastal ecosystems and environment. About 1.5 million square kilometer area in coastal region per year is being swept by fishing trawls globally. So you can imagine how much. What is the impact? What actually, because of this irresponsible fishing, what it happens, the breaking of the attached organisms like corals, when they are doing the trawling, okay, they break the corals, live corals, okay, they start dying, and even the stones, big rocks and all, they are getting disturbed, and the sea bottom is having a soft mud like particles. They are called as sediments. So they are very thick, and even if you see in our rivers and ponds, if you put your leg, the sediment will come up. Okay, then the whole area becomes turbid. Imagine if such big vessels, ships, if they are pulling the net in the sea bottom, what will happen? The sediments get disturbed, and the sediment, they basically affect the respiration of the organisms. They all fishes, prawns, everything, they are respiring through gills. Okay, these particles, sediment particles, they will go and clog the gills, and because of that, they will suffocate and they start dying. So it all happens in large numbers, not in hundreds of thousands. Okay, and how much the damage is being done due to irresponsible fishing? For every 4 tons of fishes, 4 tons of fishes are discarded for every 1 ton of shrimp. Shrimp is a high valued species. When they go for fishing, they catch the fish, shrimp. There are specific nets which can catch only shrimp, but not exactly 100%. So some bycatch, they are considered as waste. Either they are being thrown out into the sea, dead fishes, or they are brought into the seashore and they are converted into fish meal or something like that. So what I mean to say, they may be zero year classes. They are baby fishes or young fishes that they have been depleted out from the population. So that means if they grow, they will become big fishes and they will support the fishery. So if we are destroying them, the fishery wealth itself is depleted. Okay, and global trawlers discard from bycatches are about 17 to 39 million tons per year. You see, imagine 17 to 39 million tons per year. So much is being waste because of this wrongful fishing methods. over 90% of the marine living resources, they are taken from the coastal zone. Most of the fishing activities, they are taking place in the coastal zones only, shallow areas, because deep sea fishing, it involves expense, and the number of fishes what you get is also less when compared to in the shore area. I told about 20 to 30% the natural productivity is more in the coastal areas than in the open ocean. Okay, anyway, however, continental shelf waters and the Arctic, Antarctic oceans, they are little impacted because our human activities, they are less in the polar regions and in deep sea areas. And these new storms, I said about the petroleum oil pollution. Because of that, these microorganisms, floating organisms on the sea, they are forming the base of the food web. They are being affected. So we cannot, with our eyes, we cannot see the damage, but it is going on. And petroleum products, in many ways, they are affecting the marine organisms. Okay, one thing is the ultraviolet radiation, I said, due to the ozone depletion and the global warming, all these, and floating debris like fly ash, many industrial air pollutants which are landing into the sea, right? They also cause the damage. And the oil pollutions, particularly the petroleum itself is toxic, which kills the baby fishes. And the oil slick, I said it prevents the oxygen respiration of the fishes. And it's not only the respiration it affects, it also affects the baby fishes. They have a gas bladder in them. So they have a small bag-like structure inside their body, which is being used for the floating purpose. It's a natural float given by nature to the fishes. And this also get affected because of this oil pollution. And you see here, this is one photograph of the ship accident that happens because of that oil spillage takes place. And once the ship wreck happens, the oil tanker particularly, so the damage is too much. The whole area, the organisms, they are getting affected. And it's, you can see in the website, there are so many shipwrecks and oil pollution that has happened. Yeah, and you might have seen birds and marine mammals also, they are completely covered with this tar-like oil, and it is toxic, and they die, and it may take much time for them to recover from such damages. And the coral reefs, so these coral reefs, they are again important ones, and these coral reefs, they are being affected by sedimentation, eutrophication, toxic chemicals, destructive fishing methods. This I have already told. So toxic chemicals which are being produced in the industries, in the land by us human beings. Okay, they are leaching out as sewages into the water. Apart from that, you have domestic sewages which are having high content of bacteria and all, pathogenic also, hospital waste, all this, and agricultural waste that contains a lot of pesticides, toxic material. All these drains out into the rivers and reaches the sea, and these, they affect very much all the swimming and attached, as well as this type of corals, the organisms. Okay, coral reefs, they actually support, they do good for human beings. See, even though the coral reefs, they occupy only 0.25% of the world oceans, they provide habitat for about 4,000 or 25% of the marine fish species, fish alone. And it also supports many other invertebrates and all. So what I mean to say, they are the like a heaven for the marine organisms, but due to the human activities, mostly due to the human activities, when they are being destroyed, that is really a what I can say, sin. We should not do it. Okay, and mangroves, I told, they are the forest, very unique type of plants which are found in the coastal areas. and they are responsible for the good protection of the fishes in the adjacent sea areas. When they are being destroyed, the fishery wealth of the adjacent sea areas, they are being destroyed also. And sea grasses, again, I said about that. There are so many cases. If you in website you can find there are so many cases. Animals like sea cows, dugongs, okay, sea turtles. They are fond of living in this type of sea grass. They live happily, but once these sea grass beds are destroyed, again where they will go? They have to find a suitable place, and it is difficult to find a suitable place. So some of them, or many of them, they may die off. We are losing the habitat as well as the organisms living in the habitat. So as I said, domestic pollution, industrial pollution, even agricultural waste and military activities, so many things that are being impacting on the coastal biodiversity. And some may go even extinct. They have gone extinct. You may be knowing about IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN. Okay, they have publications there, and they have a red book, okay, in which all the extinct organisms, they have been listed, and what the organisms that they are about going to get extinct, and like that there are so many classifications. So with that, using that type of list as a key, we should take much care specifically to that type of marine environment that is applicable for terrestrial environment also. So seaweeds, again, I said there are many organisms which allow to live in the seaweed areas, like this marine mammals, otters, okay, and some of them gone near extinction because of the this thing, some seaweed areas in California in 82. There are so many case studies. There are some natural events like El Nino, La Nina. These are all the natural warming and cooling of the certain areas, Pacific Ocean area. It happens once in 3 or 4 years. It is natural. We cannot do anything about it. But as the global warming is taking place and the climate change is taking place, there are more frequent situations like El Nino. Okay, even the El Nino affects the food production, paddy production in India. If the El Nino happens in Pacific Ocean, but the climate is affected so much, but our paddy production is getting affected. Disease outbreaks are there. There are so much, they are interlinked. Okay. And okay, relatively open seas, they are relatively safer, and deep seas also, they are relatively safer, but it doesn't mean that they are totally safer. Even what we make the pollution or whatever we do in the terrestrial environment, they are carried away into the oceans, and they reach the deep oceans. Even nowadays, there are so many studies about microplastics. Even in deep ocean, deep water fishes, the microplastics, they have been found. Okay, and studies have been done, and they have found the chemicals like DDT. They were found in the blood of penguins, and toxic chemicals in deep sea organisms. Polar bears, okay, they are living in the most pristine environment, very safe environment. But even in their blood, it has been found the PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls. They are a group of pesticides. Okay, they have been found 2 billion times higher than in the sea. See, it's not just traces. Biomagnification, it keeps on accumulating, and the blood, it has more of the toxic chemicals. It may not affect the organisms, but the organisms which are feeding upon them, they are getting affected. For example, the mollusks which are in the coastal areas, they undergo biomagnification with toxic heavy metals like mercury. You might have heard near Boba Atomic Research Center in Kalpokam. There the water goes out, and there may be, I'm not sure, there may be some pollutants, and the biowells which are collected, they have been found to be toxic. What I mean to say is, what the chemicals or even nuclear waste, okay, they get biomagnified in the organisms, and sometimes they affect the organisms, or they may affect the higher level organisms which are feeding on them. Okay, and there are some TBT, tributylene. This is a highly toxic substance, but it's being used as a marine anti-fouling paint, because ships, they have to go without any problem. If their bottom surface, they are infested with some marine organisms like barnacles and many. Okay, the speed of the ship will be reduced, so that will make a economic loss through the high fuel consumption and all. So it's very common that every 3 years or something like that, the ships, they are being dry docked, cleaned their bottom to keep them away, and they put this paint at the bottom of the ship before putting it into the sea for up to 2 years, 3 years, or whatever it is. So slowly they may leach out these paints. They make maximum care not to leach, but still it will leach out, and these chemicals, they are also causing many problems. And ocean dumping, you might have heard about the dumping, okay, nuclear waste from developed countries on the developing countries, okay, secretly or knowingly, they bring the waste, medical waste also they bring and dump it in our waters. Our means, I'm just telling our waters. And there are some rich countries, they pay money to some poor countries, and they put that over there. Poor countries, they collect, they take the money happily, but the environment is gone. So it's something like that, ocean dumping, atmospheric fallout, whatever we do in the atmosphere, that pollutants also that end up, they come down into the sea and go into the bottom. Radioactive compounds, they are very dangerous. Military activities also, they leave so much of waste into the sea. Okay, and polar areas, I said they are relatively safer, but due to global warming and ultraviolet radiation, the problems, they are coming. The ice areas, they are getting thin or getting reduced. See, the polar areas, the ice, they act as the mirror. They reflect the sunlight back into the atmosphere. Okay, once if these ice areas, they are getting reduced, the quantum of reflection back into the atmosphere, it is getting reduced. So that increases the global warming. It is like a chain reaction. Okay, so that in that way, the global, the polar regions, they are also to be taken care. And okay, this I already told. Okay, coming to the exactly what are the difference, you may be interested to know how many species are there, the animals and plants in our seas and all. So marine floral diversity, it's 844 species of marine algae, including seaweeds, belonging to 217 genera, 14 species of sea grasses, 69 species of mangroves. Okay, biodiversity. Okay, diversity is it is quantified in terms of species. Okay, here are photographs of some of the seaweeds. They are very rich in minerals. They are very economically important ones. We are not in India. We are not taking much. We are not utilizing much like countries like Japan, Korea, and all. And marine faunal diversity: 415 species of sponges, 200 species of corals, more than 2,900 species of crustaceans. Crustaceans are the exoskeleton organisms like shrimps, crabs, lobsters, like that. Okay, arthropods there, and more than 3,000 species of mollusks. Okay, bivalves, gastropods, cephalopods, and more than 200 species of bryozoans, echinoderms, 765 species, 47 species of tunicates, they are minor phyla organisms, and 1,300 marine fishes, sea snakes, 26 species, 5 species of sea turtle, and 30 species of marine mammals, including dugong, sea cow, dolphins, whales. So we have all these rich varieties of animals, plants, animals, everything. So it's our bound duty that we have to take care of them. Okay. And what are all the actual stress, just like a review I am presenting here. So fishing method, as I explained, they damage the marine resources and marine habitats, and overcapacity. Fishing vessels over limited fishing activities, and many land-based activities like inappropriate agriculture, using a lot of pesticides and all, forestry also, industrial and municipal practices. Okay. And even aquaculture. See, aquaculture is meant for the production of seafood and all. Since the natural availability of the fish is getting dwindled, to compensate that, we can grow the organisms in the controlled areas and we can use it for our purpose. Okay, but this also, it should be made by sustainable methods in a disciplined way. Okay, there are many best management practices, better management practices, good management practices of forming these organisms. If we are not doing a disciplined way of aquaculture, then it will result in the damage to the ecology of the marine and coastal environment. So finally, it will reach the human beings. Only we are going to affect. Okay, and this you may be you may be knowing about the greenhouse gases causing the climate changes. These are all the major culprits: carbon dioxide, methane, CFCs, and nitrous oxide. Okay, they, along with the moisture, they make a shield-like structure, and because of that, the solar radiation is getting reflected repeatedly, and the globe becomes warmer and warmer and warmer. Okay, and this has happened in the past 1 century or more than 1 century. Because of the industrialization, carbon dioxide started increasing, correspondingly temperature got increased, and all other consequences have happened. And see, oceans and seas, they are like heaven for us. We are the refugees in front of the solar radiation. Okay, 93% of the solar radiation, they are being absorbed by the oceans, and land only 2%, and ice they absorb 4%, and atmosphere 1%. Imagine 93% of the solar radiation, they are being absorbed by ocean. If oceans are not there, we cannot be there. And I said the tropical areas, they are being heated up due to the solar radiation, and the polar regions, they are chiller. Okay, the radiation is so high. Imagine if these are all the water currents. Okay, there are warm surface water currents and deep chilled cold water currents. Okay, these water currents, they keep on moving due to the Coriolis force of the globe, and because of that, the temperature is being balanced, distributed all over the globe. Otherwise, it becomes extremely hot in the tropical areas and extremely cold in the polar areas. Okay, so God is saving us through seas and oceans. So it's like a belt. Okay, they take the water and oxygen also. And how this global warming and all, and our own pollution, all this, they affect the fishery. Okay, you might have heard about ocean acidification. The carbon dioxide, they get dissolved into the ocean, and the pH decreases, and the ocean water become more and more acidic. When the water becomes more and more acidic, many of the marine organisms which are having calcareous material Okay, they are getting destroyed because of the change in the pH, that is acidification. So it first affects the microorganisms, the plankton. I said plankton, they are the base of the food web. Okay, once if the food web, the very base is being affected, the whole, it like a chain, it affects the fishery production, primary production, secondary production, and tertiary production. So naturally, the fish, what it is supposed to be come out in certain quantities that are being reduced. What I am telling is not just in few years; it happens in long term. Okay, this is how the fishery production is affected. See, there are some studies they have made in the Western Indian Ocean around along the Somalia current. There is a tuna fishery. Okay, the whole border countries, Somalia and many other African countries, for their economic this thing dependence, fishery was there. But due to the climate change and all, the tuna, the whole stock, they started moving away from that area. See, the fishes, once the unfavorable situation started, they will try to move out from that place, which can swim away. The whole stocks, they move out. Because of that, there is no fish, enough fish for fishing, and whatever the fishing industry and the people livelihood, everything is being affected because of this damage that has happened to this area and the fishes over there. This is just one example. There are so many examples in internet. You can see all those things. Okay, what we have to do? So whatever irrational activities the human beings we are doing, that is to be curtailed, which cannot be done just by 1 or 2 persons, or like that, one state or one country. It should be like a global activity, and governments, they are doing. There are many restrictions that are being taken by the governments in many of our activities. Okay, so from fishing point of view, banning of the certain damaging fishing activities are to be curtailed. And FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, they have come out with a sort of Bible for a disciplined way of for fishery, not only fishery, many agriculture, everything. Okay, code of conduct for responsible fisheries. Okay, so these guidelines will give you what to do and what not to do. Okay, for example, when we are doing the fishing, the turtle and marine mammals, they should not be affected. How will you do? There is a device called as TED and MED, turtle excluded device and marine mammal excluded device. They are like a door-like structure. They are being attached into the trawl net. Okay, so the fishes, the marine mammals and turtles, they will escape, and fishes, they will not escape. It is something like that. Okay, so that type of developments have been made, and that should be followed. And precautionary and ecosystem approach and everything, that is this a very big subject. And what I mean to say, we have to take care of the ecosystem. Whatever we do, we have to have it in mind that our ecosystem, the organisms that are to be protected. Okay, and all these are to be propagated through the general public, through awareness, education, and capacity building. It's not only just educating, but we have to give training to the people, and how we have to do it in a disciplined way. Okay, and eco-labeling. See, you might have heard about a green label. Okay, whatever the food production we do, or any other activity, eco-labeling is a must. That will keep our life for longer period. Okay, and integration of national and international legal and agreement. There are so many international agreements. For example, if I am polluting, see, it is not only my coast or my marine environment, it is going to be affected. The whole of the area, rim area, the other countries, they will be affected. Because of that, all the countries, we have to hold meetings and discuss what to be done and what not to be done. Okay, so accordingly, we have to plan and execute the programs. Reduce overfishing, switch to eco-friendly fishing, habitat protection, restoration, integrated coastal area management. This is very much there in our country. Each state, we have ICAM programs. Okay, they are to be strictly followed. And this is one general figure how much species we have lost. Okay, it includes even terrestrial amphibians, mammals, forest, conifer forest we lost. 14% of the birds, 30% of sharks and rays we lost, and 33% of the coral reefs we lost, and crustaceans, shrimps, lobsters, 27% we lost. Okay, and our government, many governments, they have enlisted the organisms. Here you can see the protected marine animals of India, in which you can find many bivalves, gastropods, corals, sponges, and sharks, rays, fishes, seahorse, okay, and sea cow, turtles. Okay, they have already enlisted. Even all these posters, they have been distributed to all coastal areas and even tourist spots and all. They are not supposed to catch and sell all this material. Even one can get arrested if they possess any of these organisms. Okay, sea cucumbers, they are very important. Once there was no problem, but now their stock has gone dangerously. So government has taken measures to protect the sea cucumbers. Okay. So what is to be done to conserve the marine and coastal biodiversity for sustainable use? Increase support for marine taxonomy and ecology research, museum collection, recording and documenting. See, we should know how much species are there. Okay, how much have gone, how much yet to be found out. For all these, you need the taxonomical studies. So emphasis should be given regularly. Taxonomical studies should be made and documentation is to be done. Then only we will come to know how much we have lost the biodiversity. Okay, and regular monitoring, surveillance, that is also important. And see, common ocean program, it is there. I told you, many countries together we have to make some treaty, and with that we have to make some action plan, and that is to be implemented by each and every country uniformly. Then only coherently we can make these protective measures. Common heritage principle. It's not that only my India, my country, my Pakistan, my Sri Lanka. It's not like that. All these Bay of Bengal countries together, or the Arabian Sea countries together. So together, all these are to be taken care for the biodiversity conservation, particularly the genetic resources. Okay, and it should be beyond natural boundaries. Tackle root causes for biodiversity or biological resource loss, high per capita rates of consumption, population growth, excessive greed, ignorance. Sometimes it is the greed and sometimes it is the ignorance. So both should be addressed. And you might have heard about One Health, because after this corona, I think some of you might have heard about One Health. The virus, there are so many viruses, and animals, they are having these viruses. Unfortunately, like this corona, COVID-19, and SARS, MERS. So all this that comes into the human beings. So these are all happening because of the, what I can say, over interaction of the organisms with the human beings. So we have to be careful with the organisms, but at the same time, we have to conserve them also. These three components, environment and habitats, inhabitants, that is animals and plants in the environment, and we human beings, that should be in balance. For example, in the aquatic environment also, you can see the humans and there are some diseases with animals, and they may get transferred from one to another. Okay, that comes under food safety, right? When you are using the seafood also, there are certain procedures. As per that, we have to take care of the health of the food also. So it's not only the coastal communities, even we can start from the school children about making awareness about all these things, so that as they grow, they will become good scientists and even up to policy makers. So that should be imbibed in their mind. And so we should not mistake that all other organisms are under our control. So it is wrong. Okay, we are a part of the biological components of the earth. Okay, so there should be a mutual care between all other organisms. Then only we can coexist. So one saying that I liked very much is from Federico Mayer, earlier Director General of UNESCO during 87-99. What he said, whatever we do, the oceans will survive in one way or another. We may pollute, it will get polluted, but it will get renewed after some time. Okay. What is more problematic is whether we shall preserve it in a state that ensures humanity's survival and well-being. So ultimately, we will be the sufferers. What we do, the mistake, and the species that have gone extinct, okay, that our future generations, they are not going to see. One question I'll ask you, can any of us make one species of any organism? Can we make any species? No, it's all nature or God's creation. At least, see, we cannot make a species. Okay, cloning and all is there, but I don't think we can make a species. Okay, so at least we should be able to conserve the species that we have been blessed, whether it is marine environment or terrestrial environment. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to show one video of about 3 minutes or so. You may be enjoying that. Shamni, hello. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, sir. So are we going to play some video?
Yeah.
Okay. So organizers, could you please play that video? So until then, till they play.
2015, global leader.
Shall I play the video?
Yes, sir, for sure. It'll be better, sir, if you please share your screen and play the video.
Pardon?
Please share your screen and play the video.
Oh, your screen sharing is paused. Okay. How come? Okay.
Adopted the sustainable.
Is it coming?
No, sir.
To conserve and sustainably use the oceans,
I have
seas,
one thing.
and marine resources.
I have stopped the video. I sent the video to Shamni. Can you play?
Sure, sir.
Okay.
So until then, with no further delay, we will be playing the video, sir, once it got received by Shamni, and we will ask the organizers to play the video. Until then, thank you very much for the impressive and effective presentation. So we thoroughly enjoyed your webinar. And actually, it was really impressive, and we all lost all track of time, actually. So thank you for that. And we have hit by floods of questions here by so many viewers. So would you like to answer now, sir, or after the video?
Yeah, we'll start. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So guys, we are going to start a questionnaire session now. So first question is asked by Kanmani. So she states that it is said that algae and virus are in good terms. Do ocean water have virus too?
Why not? There are so many viruses in ocean waters, even in deep waters, bacteria, even in thermal vent, in the bottom of the sea, there are thermal vent, hot water springs. Even there, you can see bacteria and virus. Virus is everywhere. So they don't affect. They are existing, coexisting well in the sea.
We hope that answers your question, Kanmani. And second question, Lavanya Prada. What are the steps that could be taken to replace these important marine life like mangroves and coral surfaces because huge biodiversity is lost?
What is that?
It's like, what are the steps that could be taken to replace important marine life like mangroves, coral surfaces? Because she considered it like huge biodiversity is getting lost.
Yeah, I got it. With regard to mangroves, so already some mangroves, they have been damaged. For example, in Gujarat, in Mundra area, for the economic activity, for the harbor construction and all, they have removed the mangrove areas. Only few trees are left over there. And the same happened in Mumbai also. But there are government, state governments, they are taking, they have already taken replanting these mangroves. It is easy. We can make mangrove forests in the coastal areas. Like aquaculture, we can make the samplings of these mangrove trees in the ground, in our backyard, and then they can be planted in the coastal areas where they have been depleted. So rejuvenation of the mangrove forests, that is possible. But corals, it is difficult. Corals, it takes many years to grow. Corals, they are millions of organisms. Okay, and whatever we see, the white colored structure, that is the calcareous secretion that comes from the coelentrates colonies. Okay, it will take many years to grow. That's why corals, we have to be very careful. And there also rejuvenating the corals, there are certain programs, but the thing is, it will take years. But mangroves, they will grow faster, and seagrasses and seaweeds, they can also grow faster. You can habitat rejuvenation, it can be made in the case of plants, but corals, it will take time. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Kanmani, again, she has asked a question like, marine organism take in more of microplastics. How can this be solved?
See, microplastics, they whatever we use, the plastics that has gone into the aquatic environment through rivers, they have ended up into the sea, and due to the wave action and many actions, the pieces they kept breaking to micro levels, and these microorganisms, these microplastics, they have ended up in many of the organisms. So only thing is how now we are, the government has banned use of plastic bags. Like that, we have to reduce. We have to go back to the habit of using metal, for example, metal buckets and all, so that they will not get deteriorated and that they will not reach the garbage bags and finally the aquatic environment. Likewise, only we have to reduce as much as possible the use of plastics. Sure. Or there are biodegradable plastics are there that we have to use.
Yeah. So this question is asked by Jyoti Sri. Why government now focus on seagrass conservation?
Why government
focused on seagrass conservation?
No, Government of India, Ministry of Environment and Forest, they are having so many programs both for terrestrial environment as well as the coastal and the marine environment. Seagrass, they are one among the priorities. I said, no, they are like forest in the oceans. They act as a habitat, suitable habitat for many of the organisms. So seagrass, they are important, and the government is having many programs to conserve these seagrasses also.
Okay, so Tamirvanan SS, what your view about pink ice air?
Pink
ice air.
Pink ice
air.
Spelling?
Pink, color pink, ice, ICE, air.
Pink ice, yeah.
Air, yeah.
Oh, I'm not knowing about it.
It's okay, sir. Okay, we'll move on to next question. Anint Kumar asked, what are the possible ways to reduce trace or toxic element in coastal environment?
Trace
or toxic elements in coastal environments.
See, toxic elements means that maybe in any form. Mostly the industrial waste, they have toxic elements like heavy metals, like mercury, and petroleum hydrocarbon, and even the toxic biological toxic material like bacteria, pathogenic bacteria from the hospital waste and domestic waste, and chemical pesticides from the agricultural waste. So we cannot totally stop the economic activity or our day-to-day activities to protect the oceans or coastal areas, but we have to strike a balance between the judicial use of this material in our day-to-day activities so that they will not affect the environment, coastal areas, or even the air pollution, even our terrestrial environment. So that steps are to be taken. Okay. For example, yes, instead of using a chemical fertilizer or a chemical pesticide, better you use an organic pesticide. That is not going to do damage for the environment. So it's something like that. In each and every activity, we should see that better way is to be followed.
Understandable, sir. Thank you. Yes. And Lavanya Prada, can microorganisms be employed for removal of microplastics in ocean surfaces?
Yes, there are. I think I am not much sure about it, but somewhere I listened to some lecture on microplastics. I think it is possible. Microbial degradation of pollutants, pesticides, that is very much there for many years, and even heavy metals also there. So there are beneficial bacteria that can be made to use to combat all these problems, and definitely microplastics also, they can be controlled using the bacteria.
Thank you, sir. And this is one of the questions on behalf of the common people, like what are the effective conservation methods or measures that have been taken by our government to prevent this microplastics in ocean surfaces?
See, awareness is the only thing. See, we have been habituated with a certain type of, particularly in fishing also, the nets, they have certain life period. After that, yes, they should not be used. If we use that, they will get deteriorated and they will end up into small fibers, particles, plastic, like that. So when just one example, I said the fishing nets. So the regulations are to be made that after a certain period, after 3 years or something like that, once the nylon start getting brittle or something like that, then we must not use that for fishing activity. So that microplastics or the particles which are coming out of that, they should not pollute the marine environment. Likewise, the regulations are to be made strictly.
Okay, so thank you so much. So next question, Yogesh Pandey. Is it possible to stop loss of biodiversity in growing human population?
Is it possible?
To stop loss of biodiversity in this growing human population?
Once if you reduce the population, automatically you are stopping the or slowing the damage to the environment. Okay.
Yeah, that pretty answers the question. So next is Lavanya Prada. Mother Earth is in perfect balance with nature. What could be the worst effects we may expect in future due to continuous interference of human activities?
Definitely, after some centuries, we will be ending up in many problems. Water scarcity will be the main problem. The next world war will be only for water, that has been predicted by some experts. Okay, and the way the sea level has been increasing, that is also exponential. Okay, so unless otherwise we take care of the activities, irrational, anything going irrational, use of much of chemicals. Okay, and greed is another. I told, greed and ignorance. These two are the important things we have to take care. And government should have proper planning, foreseeing for the next 50 years what is to be done. So accordingly, the programs are to be planned and executions should start. Okay, it's not climate change. Talking about climate change, we have to start implementing the climate action. That is a new concept, particularly the youth, they are for it. And I 100% accept that.
Thank you, sir. So, Tamirvanan, what about the seaweed in antioxidants preparations and in cancer treatments?
Seaweed is having hundreds of utility, and they are very highly nutritious. They have medicinal values also. I'm not sure. There are so many small studies on the bioactive compounds which are being isolated from the seaweeds. They are being used as the anti-cancer, antiviral, and so many theses I heard about what they have been made. But I am not sure how for all these bioactive compounds that have been made into commercial products in combating these problems. But definitely it is possible. Like corona medicine, one has to one that when the necessity comes, I think we will be concentrating much on that, and we will come out instead of waiting for 10 years or 20 years, within 1 year.
Sadly,
we
yes. Yeah.
Product.
Yes. So we have plenty of questions. So because of this time constraint, we need to stop the questionnaire session. But I would like to ask one personal. It's not about controversial, but today it's a very important topic, and the EIA Act 2020. This draft has been, about to pass. August 11th, I guess. So, what is your view about it, sir?
I already signed it. Anyway, but the thing is, I am yet to go through the document fully, because I heard it is not a new document. It was made in the earlier government and something like that. I am not sure, but with my own eyes, I want to go through the document fully. But apart from that, EIA it must be. Environmental impact assessment is the process which has been developed once the industrialization started affecting the environment. Okay, so that EIA came into existence since there was a need that the human intervention should ensure that I am not going to destroy the environment. Okay, that is the basic concept. if I construct this industry in this coastal area or whatever, mountain area or wherever, so what are all the consequences it will happen? What are all the pollutants that will come out from my industry? How the social disturbance it will happen, employment imbalance, all these are to be studied, okay, and that should be submitted and clearance should be given only after EIA. That is my personal view.
Thank you so much, sir, for the clear explanation. And we would like to thank Dr. Ganesh for having this wonderful webinar session and supporting us all along the Organogenic organization. And thanks a lot for you, sir, for having an, I mean, by any measures, you are being an effective educator, actually seeing your presentation. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thanks. It was nice.
And I mean, before ending the session, viewers, please fill the feedback form that we have sent the link along the chat box. So please fill it and send it to receive your certification of this webinar. Thank you.
You can show my last slide so that they can note down my email ID and WhatsApp number. If anybody
so,
is now,
I guess your screen, sorry sir to interrupt, your screen has been displayed. So you could please navigate through the last slide so that everybody can view.
Okay, I'll show that.
Sure, sir.
And what about video film? Will you show it now?
I guess we have some problems with the video, so
Okay.
it's hard to show. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry for the inconvenience, sir. Yeah.
No problem. It is there in the YouTube. Let them, the participants, they
Yeah,
can.
of course. Okay,
just,
sir.
Initiated, provoked their mind. They can now go through YouTube. There are so many videos, many even animations are there. So they can note down my email identity, WhatsApp for later communication.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
So,
thank you, viewers, for all your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.